What's up, everybody? I'm Jamal.
And I'm Brandon, and this is The Way We Ball.
But we just got a 3-2 score with America versus Chivas. Most importantly, the two American score. Just had to drop that in there before we start today's episode. How's it going for you?
It's going well, living the dream, just taking it day by day.
I know I threw a curveball there, but we have something to be excited about because the rest of this episode is going to be pretty depressing, at least on my end.
I'm going to bring the uplifting.
All right, well, let's just get to it, Brandon. We introduced 2 weeks ago our newest segment, Ball Like I See It. Brandon, why don't you take the floor?
Oh, Jamal, I am going to ball it like I see it. And what I see is something scary, something horrifying, something, Jamal, that I thought we killed and buried. But Jamal, I feel the evil has returned. The evil of the Dynamo. 41st minute, Hernandez killed our hope. Jamal, you know what the H in Hernandez stands for? Houston, we have a problem. But suddenly, there's a cool breeze that could tangle a beautiful set of hair. And up walked said set of hair and buried the PK. Point Gryffindor. They're equalizer, but still a loser. 2-1 aggregate. We're out of CONCACAF. Good Dynamo. Jamal, do you know what the H in Hector stands for? Hope. Jamal, you know what the H in Herrera stands for? How long till Hector's back in the lineup? How returns to the shell on March 16th against Portland? Hell in the shell. More like, where the hell is Hector Herrera? May God rest our legs. And Jamal, that's how I ball it, like I see it.
Brandon came to fight this week. Good Lord. You know, you mentioned something that I wanted to get off my chest because you talked about hair. And when Coco came out with his new haircut, I was like, okay, we got Coco Rosario. I was pumped, right? Because that's a very special haircut or hairdo to us Dynamo fans, and he let us down. You cannot get the Dwayne De Rosario hairdo and then have a game like that. It wasn't terrible, but it was by far his worst game. And he let us down, man. I had to get that off my chest. I'm glad you brought up hair because hair was it was a theme this last game.
It's actually a good point because for me, I think he ruins his brand recognition with us. I mean, you look at his profile and you could immediately pick it out. Like if we had a silhouette of every player, I think 100% of Dynamo fans would be like, oh, that's Coco. And for him to change his hairstyle, I'm not a fan of that. So I am glad we started with hair on this one. And I kind of wish he would change it back or at least change it to something different.
Yeah, different. Because like you said, if I see a silhouette, that's De Rosario for me, for the traditionalists. I mean, look, not too much to talk about. I mean, beating a dead horse at this point, playing with no DPs against a team with a DP. That DP scored shows the difference that a DP makes. Brandon, there is good news on the horizon. Today we saw a tweet. And I wanted to ask you this because is this why there's been a lack of movement? We saw, let me pull this up. Tom Bogert today tweeted, sources, a key MLS roster rule change is in the works and is expected to be implemented this summer. MLS to decouple designated player and U22 initiative rules. All teams get 3 U22s no matter what. Opens room for more investment. Not 100% done, but expected. Brandon, with this news, am I being too optimistic in thinking that maybe Pat was holding off because he saw this coming on the horizon?
I like that perspective. Not something I've thought about, that maybe he's been patient to wait for the new rule change and then really kind of go for it. That's a good strategy. I'm here for that. To me, this sounds like a rule change that they were desperate just to make Inter Miami's squad work because they have too much money behind that team in terms of them being the face of MLS, where you market it around the world. They're going to be the first team that pops up. So to continue that, I believe they're just trying to make more room so that way more of Messi and his guys can come over here. Because I know Luka Modric is rumored to come over here in the next transfer window. And there's no way you can keep compiling these players unless you start to change the rules. And I think we're starting to see, is this a benefit? I genuinely think so. I think right now we'll all be really up in arms and kind of pissed of how this is working out. But in the end, this could be something that benefits the league and especially us. So, you know what? Thinking about Pat being patient, I'm here for that, man.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's MLS's best interest to have other clubs kind of replicate what Miami's doing. I mean, there's only one Messi in the world, but there's other big superstars out there that would come play here for a decent payday. Uh, I think it's I think the MLS missed by not doing this sooner because Messi hype was real. Messi hype was here. And it feels like it died off a little bit. I don't want to get too deep into that because I have that for a later segment. But yeah, I really like the move. I hope that we did this or that Pat was quiet because of this. That's just me being optimistic. But it's exciting news, more exciting than the Dynamo specific news that we got. Um, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about the signings on the way. Talk about a blessing in disguise for the cheap pun. Brandon, what do you think about Latif Blessing rumored to come if it's not already done yet?
So 27-year-old, he's kind of bounced around MLS. He is a MLS veteran. I like the idea of having him the blessing hands. I do like that, producer Shay. So I do have a little bit of information on him, but I have one specific thing that I think is really important when we talk about his signing. So, for instance, he is from Ghana. He was born in Ghana. He had a quick rise in their Premier League where he scored 17 goals in 2016. It actually led the league in goals scored. Then he moved to Sporting KC, then to LAFC, then to New England Revolution, and then he was traded to Toronto in July 23. But here's where I kind of want to break down that's a little bit interesting. So I'm going to do something called reading. In 2017, Blessing obtained his U.S. green card, allowing him to qualify as a domestic player on MLS rosters. In 2023, as part of the process to bring his family over via visa, he had to give up his green card and reapply under a visa status, returning him to count as an international player. So if we signed him, does he go against this new international rule? And is it all because he just wanted to bring his family to America?
Yeah, so that gets confusing. I even saw rumored somewhere that he might even take a DP spot. I hope that's not the case because he's not worth a DP spot. The funny thing with Latif Blessing, before he left to Toronto, I was a big fan of his. I wanted him here. I really liked the way he played with LA. From what we've seen on the Toronto subreddit and X or tweets, whatever you want to call it, Toronto fans weren't too crazy about him, but he did a lot of great with LA. So I love the idea of Latif before that Toronto move. Here's my thing. Had this signing happened preseason before what we know now, I would have been praising Pat for a signing like this. This is depth. This is exactly what we needed. This is a great piece to bring in when Aleu's tired or when Bossy's tired. The fact that we desperately need a number 9 and this is the move we made, this is where I have the problem. This isn't a guy that we need right now. This isn't urgent. We need a scoring piece. We need a number 9. And again, it's crazy how just a difference in the time of year this signing happens goes from an A or B plus preseason to right now. To me, it's a C signing, a C plus
So
at
I
best.
I think a lot of people would argue, well, Blessing does score goals. But here's the thing, he has 35 total in his career. But as I mentioned right at the top, he scored 17 of those in one season in 2016 over in Ghana. So let's kind of just do easy math there. We're talking about since 2016, he's now had what, 18 goals? And that's in a span of about 8 years. So this is not somebody I would consider a goal scorer, even though he has the ability to do so. As we're kind of running his highlights here, as you can see, the guy can definitely put the ball in the back of the net. Can he do that for us? I don't know. He keeps getting bounced around the league so much that it's now concerning to me of, well, if he's this great of a piece, why isn't anybody else really hanging on to him? Because when he left Sporting KC, he went to LAFC where he was there for majority of his career. When he went from Ghana to Sporting KC, he was immediately loaned. Like 7 days later, he was immediately loaned out to their MLS Next Pro, and then eventually traded over to Sporting KC. Then traded to LAFC, and then immediately traded to New England Revolution, and then within a couple of months, they're trading him off to Toronto, and now Toronto's shipping him off to us. So, what's the play here? Is it just because he's going to count as an international spot?
I think it's going to be very important to see the specifics to this deal because this could be. I don't want to could call it a disaster signing, but this could be a very bad move if he does end up taking an international or something very crucial to the team. Again, I would have loved this blessing. I would have loved Blessing as a signing preseason when we thought Sebas was healthy and we thought we had a healthy squad. But right now, I don't think this was the move. Brandon, I put out a tweet saying that we were going to talk on this subject specifically, and we got some feedback from the Dynamo brass out there, or Dynamo fans, excuse me.
That's
First
the
one
real
comes
brass.
from the first one comes from Jeffrey P. Nesker. Um, Short and sweet. Didn't get a real chance at Toronto. Next one we got from Sean Broker. Solid depth piece. Solid depth piece. He has a championship experience that helped carry us through last year, which we've made that point before. It is important to have championship quality players. They've been there. They get it. It isn't their first rodeo. We got a shot from Chris Sinsky of Dynamo Faithful. Great move. He plays multiple positions and is MLS proven. Brandon, I know you're big on being MLS proven. So for the most part, those messages were pretty positive. There was a lot of negative out there. I'm going to be really curious to see what we see out of Blessing. This was not the signing I was expecting, to be completely honest with you.
The good news is producer Shay did some digging. He does qualify as a domestic player, so that's at least a blessing in disguise as we continue the pun. I hope all of their optimism of him being a solid MLS player is going to be true. You're exactly right. I stand with Chris in the fact that I want more MLS proven players, and he definitely has those years under him. But again, I am concerned of why he's bouncing around so much. So we're gonna have to wait and see. And plus, where does he fit in once we come back all healthy? Because then we have a ton of depth at the center mid position, but where does he really slot in? So he's I think rumored around 600,000, so that's a lot of cash for this guy too. Let's hope that Toronto's picking up a big. If Toronto's floating most of his contract, then I'm totally cool with the signing.
Here's a little wager for you. Are we going to have a Houston, you have a problem pun or a Blessing pun on his first game? Which comes first?
In his first game is tough. I think, let's say, after his first month, because he'll play 38 games the way the schedule's stretched out, I think he'll be a blessing in disguise. I think we right now are desperate for some kind of fresh legs into the lineup, and he'll provide that. So I'm going to be optimistic. I said I was going to be optimistic at the top, even though like I see it really wasn't. But I think he'll bring some fresh legs and hopefully some optimism into the midfield and goals. My God, goals. Speaking
Yeah,
of
I
that,
mean,
man, we haven't had one multiple scoring game yet, right? I think we've only scored 1-0 or like 1-1. Like we've only had one goal per game, correct? Or am I crazy?
yeah, we haven't had a multiple scoring game on all competitions.
That's what I thought, right? And by this point, like, I get it being tired legs, but in all competitions, we haven't had multiple goals. Like, that's a little concerning to me.
Oh no, it's a big problem for us, and like that was the issue. All the games we've been pretty competitive. It's just we don't have that goal scoring piece. This team, there's no sustainability in that. We can't go on until Hector comes back, just with our backs against the wall, hoping to win 1-0. Um, I don't like where we're at right now, especially on the attacking end of things.
So there is something that let's kind of touch on here. Actually, Ben, in an interview, kind of went off talking a little bit about the squad and also kind of our current standing. So, producer Shay, if you have that video, let's let's hear what Ben basically had to say to the reporter, and then you and I can kind of react to it. Hold on.
Obviously, we very rarely are trying to slow down the tempo of the game, but there are some moments where we have to get into our shape and build and try to break other teams down. So sometimes that looks a little bit slow, but the tempo itself needed to be high. We needed to chase the game. We were down. We needed to win the game, but we wanted to do that in a patient way and still stick to who we are. And I thought for the most part we did that. We were just off a little bit, and again, advancing the ball into their half. I thought the first half we played very well. We rushed it then. Once we got into some good spots, I thought we took the wrong choice, or the ball was just a hair off. I attribute some of that to some heavy legs and some heavy minds. Just it's been a lot, and it's been a lot of games.
heavy legs and heavy minds. He's talking about sluggish buildup. It takes a moment. Do you really think that is the cause of our status right now? Is it as simple as heavy legs and heavy minds?
We played against a team who had just played on Saturday, and they looked all right. I don't buy that. It's a part of the game, right? Like, we knew this coming in. We excelled last year, so we're going to be in more tournaments. I don't buy that. And that's both Ben and Pat. Like, we've talked about it. We knew what we were getting ourselves into. We didn't really make many moves. Like, my biggest concern was we had all these issues with Sebas, and Pat had a comment saying, or I don't know if it was Pat or Ben, saying that we built this team around Pat, or around Sebas, thinking he was going to be our guy. What made you think that based on what we saw last year? So, tired legs, tired minds, you dug yourself this hole. Again, we had a week rest. These guys, Columbus had just played, and they ran the field with us. They dominated the game, let's be honest. We got that goal towards the end, but aside from that, there was nothing really to be excited about. It was a rough display, man. That was one of the hardest games I've had to watch in a long time for the Dynamo.
So a couple of things. I know I want to keep preaching Benny and keep preaching for this team, but there is something that kind of bothers me with we were tired legs and tired minds. One, yes, we're playing a ton of games, but the one narrative I hate is if we were winning all these games, nobody brings up how tired the team is. But the minute there's either losing or you're kind of sluggish and winning, or sluggish and knocked out of a team, it's, oh man, tired legs, tired legs. And yes, we have played a lot of games really recently, but this is again where I've been kind of nagging Ben on his substitutions. The way he substitutes late, the way he substitutes, and then we give up these late goals. To me, when you continue to make odd substitutions in a game, that's what produces tired legs over time. We've been running out the same lineup and not really giving more of breaks here. We give it to certain individuals here and there, but overall, not really. And I am concerned about that going forward, because then on top of that, you add in injuries. I think you have a better excuse of saying, we are so riddled with injuries. That's why I'm having to play you academy players right now. And that's why we're losing, rather than just saying it's tired legs, even though they played on Saturday and we rested.
Is tired legs the same as my dog ate my homework? Is that the equivalent for?
It's the bullshit speak for school for coaches.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's what it felt like. There's just no substance behind it. Anyone can have that excuse. Like, once the season starts, you're going to be tired. That's part of the game. It's nothing new. It's not an excuse for that performance. Like you said, my biggest issue that game was Sia. I don't know how to pronounce his name. The college star player that we were surprised that we were able to keep from the draft and get him so late. Why is he coming in the 89th, 88th minute? Yeah, like, why is he coming so late into the game when you have tired legs, tired minds? I guarantee you that kid is itching to get on the pitch, itching to play. It's frustrating because, like, you want to hold these guys accountable, but it's like anytime you push back, you're getting attitude, you're getting these frustrated answers. I know we have a clip lined up. I don't want to like do clip overload here, but like, we want to hold these guys accountable. That's one thing I love about Glenn Davis. He's always calling out on being more accountable on the media, soccer media especially, because, like, look, the Dynamo probably have it the easiest when it comes to our major teams here in Houston, and they still get triggered over any little thing. If tired legs, tired mind, get those guys in there earlier, get those younger guys in there earlier. We didn't. 75th minute, he should have been in there, especially with the way we were playing. Look for a different motivation. Look for just new legs. I'm with you there on the frustration over the press conference.
I just think you have a better excuse because, yes, producer Shea is making a good point where he's saying, to be fair, we'd have Seba and Bossy coming off the bench if we were healthier guys, and Siegel and Aliu, they're not really, they're more bench players, not starters. I push back on Aliu on the wing. He's looked great. But yes, your overall point is correct in the sense that, like, if we were all healthy, we would have more depth. But right now, we aren't healthy. And we keep trotting out the same players over and over for us to eke out a 1-0 loss because they're tired at the end. I think the fan base would understand more if we put in all these young guns and we lost 3-0 or we lost 3-1 or whatever it might be. I'd be more being accepting of that, saying like, hey, I like that Ben's at least going for it and trying to really test this depth than just running this team in the ground at the beginning of the season.
I mean, can
and
you
having
imagine
not really the best results.
Could you imagine the conversation we'd be having right now if we had the same result, but our younger guys, our rookies came in 10, 15 minutes earlier? It'd be a totally different feeling. But the fact that that didn't happen, and then the first thing you complain is tired legs, tired minds, it's like, well, you got yourself in that position and you're using that as an excuse. So, it's like, it's just like, it's a no-win situation, especially for the fans. I mean, like, yeah, I get it. Those guys are hurt. A part of the business is rolling with the punches, figuring it out. I mean, we mentioned before, you can only use that excuse for so long. At the end of at a certain point, there has to be some accountability from the leadership, from the coaching. You navigated this team, you created this team, so you have to be ready whenever you get these curveballs thrown at you.
I hope more reporters start to ask him about his substitution tactics and to explain it. But I also think Ben is starting to crack a little bit too, because you mentioned I don't want to clip overload, but I do want to play that clip. I want to see where he's getting visibly upset and why is he this upset this quickly. Sorry, producer Shay. No, I tried to type it to you to get you ready a little bit earlier. Here we go.
What? Yeah, the mood's fine. Well, I don't understand the question. Are we? Yeah. What do you mean? How's the mood? We're excited. I mentioned that in the first part. We're excited to play a soccer game. We're down 1-0. We lost at home. All we have to do is win a soccer game here. Albeit against a very, very good team and a good team at home, but it's a doable situation. So we're 2 games into the league, and in CONCACAF
I think we're good there.
Past St. Louis. So again,
first and foremost, shout out to Foxtrot, who we got that clip from, his Twitter. So shouts out to those guys. Thank you for making all these clips accessible for us. But yeah, like, look, it's funny because Ben makes it so easy to like him, and he makes it very easy to hate him too. So it's like when I see that, I'm like, it wasn't even that pressing of a question, and it's like you have nobody else to be upset about but yourself. And again, I feel like these guys have it easier compared to like D'Amico Ryans, what he gets, Emev with the Rockets. I don't know, man. That just shows thin skin to me. I wasn't too crazy about that.
I thought it was a fair question because you're asking what is the mood of your locker room with all these injuries, and on top of that, like, you guys made the playoffs, you had a deep cup run, a lot of people were picking you to finish high. Like, I'd understand that, hey, these guys are frustrated or they're a bit tired from all these games if you want to keep going on tired legs and tired minds. I thought it was a bit odd that he was so irritated when it just came to what is the mood currently of the state of the team.
I'd love to have the full context of that because, yeah, it's a very fair question. Like, hey, are these guys really ready for Hector to come back? Is that part of it? I mean, why the heavy minds? You said yourself, or tired legs, tired minds. Like, yeah, it was a fair question. Now, I don't know if those 2 press conferences or those 2 quotes were from the same press conference, but like, I don't know what the reason for the trigger was. Like, that was very odd to me. And like you said, are we starting to see the cracks?
I don't know, but I will say though, this Saturday against Portland's coming in red hot, man. They're top of the table. They're looking pretty good, and Ben already being frustrated. What's the mood going to be like going against them Saturday at home? How are you feeling on that one?
I'm not feeling good, man. I don't think this team is in a good place. From what we saw, I'm anticipating a loss, to be honest. I foresee my prediction is 2-0 Portland.
I get it. I don't want to be because like so far we haven't picked them to lose when we do these analyses. And I don't want to be like jumping on that train immediately just because the results haven't been going our way. But this is a different beast right now, and Portland's coming in with a different chip on their shoulder. I am a little bit worried about how we've actually been playing at home, how we're giving up late goals. And the biggest question mark right now for me is a lot of Steve Clark, because he's somebody that if he's been making bizarre moves out there, that I'm a bit worried on what he's going to do.
Speaking of, because we talked about that before this last game, how did you feel with Sviatchenko not starting? Well, how did you feel with that
Well,
performance of the back line?
I know he was still nagged up from that injury, so I didn't see if he was like genuinely injured or we were just resting him from that hamstring when he subbed off. But I like Bartlow back there. I'm going to die on that hill. I think Svetchenko is a great leader. I hope he develops into that role of being more of a coach, in all honesty, and then just subs in kind of here and there. We need to start developing Bartlow and Mikhail for not only just this team going forward in the future, but in all honesty, for financial gain. Because if we can sell those two, we can make a ton of money.
Alrighty, folks, it is time for our second segment of the show, a segment that I really love, where we take a story from somewhere in the soccer world and bring it to you, the way we ball listeners. Brandon, today's Ballin Around the Globe. Where are you taking us?
I was hoping Shay was going to come in with the voice, but he did not. All right, then, as always, Jamal, today we actually start off in two places. But the first place we're going to start off is in England. Now, we are going to talk about Wayne Rooney. Jamal, do you remember when Wayne Rooney last played?
Did he go to Everton after DC United, or am I making that up?
Closest. He did go back to England, but it wasn't with Everton. So his last time he played was 2020, and it was with Derby County, where he was the player and also manager at the time. Because then after he retired, then he became full-time manager. Now, that is not what my Ballin' Around the Globe is. Now, we go to the second spot here, where we're going to go to Saudi Arabia, where our buddy and his former teammate, Cristiano Ronaldo, well, since 2020, he has scored 92 goals since Rooney retired. The best part is, Ronaldo is 39 years old. Wayne Rooney, 38. That is my Ballin' Around the Globe. Isn't that amazing?
That guy is he's a vampire, man. The guy gets younger and younger. Although he did have that whiff. I don't know if you saw that.
I did. But almost 100 goals since he's retired, and yet he's still a year older than Wayne Rooney. And Wayne Rooney looks, no way he looks 39, man. Like, he's looking aged.
I don't know what it is with a lot of those British athletes, like Ricky Hatton on the boxer, like Pemblett, the UFC fighter. Those guys cannot stay in shape. I don't know if it's like the fish and chips or it's just so cold over there, they just want to pig out. But there's something about those English dudes. Once they retire, that's it. Like they just get the Squidward, big thighs body. So, well, Brandon, my Ballin' Around the Globe segment brings us back here to the U.S., where we're going to talk about another GOAT, arguably Cristiano Ronaldo's biggest rival in Lionel Messi. This isn't necessarily about Lionel Messi, and this is more so a question for you and maybe our listeners if we clip this. Brandon, MLS and Apple are very concerned with the opening numbers that we're seeing of MLS Miami games and Messi appearances. Brandon, is this more people having Messi fatigue, or is this MLS doing a terrible job of announcing the season starting?
Yes. To answer both of those, this is a little bit I think it's not so much Messi fatigue. It's how much am I going to continue to pay for this price of a ticket? That was the big thing. A lot of people were able to sell that in a secondary market. I think that's what's kind of scared a lot of people to try to go and see him again, because they know, I don't want to spend $300 to sit up in the nosebleeds like when he first came onto the scene. I think people are still under that assumption that to go see a Messi game costs a lot of money. But as you mentioned, not really. People haven't really been showing up, and a lot of money's been given back.
Well, this is also, keep in mind, this is also TV ratings. Apple is a bit concerned with their TV ratings so far this year.
So I was going to rail on them towards the end of the show here, where I was talking a little bit more about their some of their shows that they'll do. But to kind of reference what they do for game wise, I do think there is a lot of concern on what Apple does. Yes, it's very convenient to watch MLS games, and it's awesome that we can watch it internationally. But in terms of the product that they actually give you, to me, it's pretty shit in the sense of the TV shows, the coverage after the games. Like, there's really nothing. There's nothing to kind of educate you. It's more on all the clubs to put these individual things together that then they load up on where you can watch a team profile and all this other stuff. But it's not as good as it should be. I will definitely say that much.
You kind of gave yourself away because I know where you're going to lead
Yeah.
towards our later segment. But so on my end, I'm more on the MLS side of things because I feel like if you're not a diehard fan of your MLS club, what has the league really done to promote the season starting? It felt very underwhelming this year, especially again having Messi. There was just like a lot going on, right? Like the whole Open Cup mess, and then CONCACAF Champions, like, and now this whole Super League or whatever, the U.S. Mexico tournament. It just felt like MLS had a lot going on, and they didn't know where to fill their or which bucket to go in completely. This was the most underwhelming start to a season. Like day one, week one. Like I remember I was flipping through and I was like, "Oh, MLS started this week, cool." Like even like I preseason, I was pumped to see Suarez play with Messi, see how he was going to look, and I totally forgot that the first game was happening. MLS doesn't, I feel like a lot of times they do themselves a disservice and they treat themselves, I think they see themselves as NBA, NFL little brother, and they treat themselves that way. Um, and I didn't know if it was just me being like infatuated with this year's Premier League race. It's insane with Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, so many storylines, Klopp leaving, Arsenal coming back, like a lot going on. But then I took a seat back and I was like, no, this isn't just me. Like, if you're not a diehard Dynamo guy, I don't think you knew when game one of the MLS season started. I like the fact that Apple makes it accessible. It's easy for me to watch wherever I am. I can throw up the Apple TV app on my phone, on my laptop, and catch a game. My issue, my bone to pick is more with the MLS and treating this like a secondary league.
So we have to think about the man in charge, Don Garber. A lot of people want Don gone, right? And I understand why. But we also have to think of the other side. Did he grow this game bigger than we ever thought it could by bringing over Messi, by partnering with Apple, by really truly projecting this game forward? And if you think about what is the objective of a commissioner, it's to grow the game. I would say in that front, he's been successful. Everything else is miserable. You can kind of parallel this a lot with Major League Baseball right now. He's gonna be retiring here in 5 years, as he announced. Who announces a retirement that I'm gonna be retiring in 5 years, by the way? But anyway, baseball was a state of where it was declining. They changed the rules. Fans started to come back. Ratings started to go up. He's going to leave as a commissioner that was successful for baseball. Is Don Garber now going to be doing the same thing in the MLS? Will he be leaving them on a higher standard because of the deal he has with Apple for bringing over Messi?
Okay, but like to argue your point, if Messi doesn't come, is that Apple deal still seen as a success? Because I didn't necessarily grow the game. If anything, it made it harder to watch if you're not a fan. It was much easier to throw on your TV, see a game by chance on Fox or whatever network it was on. Had it not been for Messi, are we praising Dan Garber for this Apple deal?
Dude, yeah, I'll push back on that. Apple made it way easier to watch Dynamo games and also other MLS games. Like, I became a bigger fan of MLS because I have the Dynamo, or because I have MLS package. Now, the bigger question is, would I have bought it if I didn't have season tickets and get it for free? That
Yeah.
answer, I would be very honest, no.
How many casuals are going to buy the package? Like, so I got lucky because I was a T-Mobile holder, and T-Mobile that year, I don't even know if they have it
Yeah,
free again this year,
they
but
don't
that
do
year
it
they
anymore.
got it. So they got it for free. That was a huge help. This year I'm a season ticket holder. I get it for free again. I think I would have bit the bullet and purchased it, but just because I want to see Messi, Miami, I want to see all the Dynamo games that I can. My bigger thing is like the diehards are going to support no matter what. It's more of the casuals that I'm concerned about. So I mean, I love the deal. I love the Apple deal. I'm just kind of curious to what that would have looked like had Messi never came. How many? Because I don't know if you recall, there was an issue. Apple was having an issue with the amount of subscribers initially.
Yep.
Messi came and blew all their expectations out of the water, including jersey sales for Adidas. So I just really wonder in a parallel universe where Messi doesn't come, what that looks like, what they'd be saying about Garber. I will say, with all the rules implemented post Messi, I'm a Don Gone guy as well. I think he did a great job of growing it. Now I think we need somebody who can take it to that next level. As you've seen, like the NBA with Stern, and now I'm having
Silver.
can't remember his
Adam
name,
Silver.
but Adam Silver. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean that balling around the globe wasn't as fun as they typically are, but it is something it is
Informative.
something to talk about. Like that's very, I don't want to say concerning, but I didn't realize that the streaming numbers weren't as great as we thought they were going to be, especially with this super team, quote unquote, in Miami.
When we get to Ballin Around the Globe, I will have Ballin Around the Globe, Ball in or Ball Out. I will have suggestions on what I think Apple can do as a better thing as well. So when we get to there,
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Shay, cue the music. This week we're going back to our other favorite segment, Ball In, Ball Out, where we take different
Ball in
topics,
or ball out.
around the soccer world and bring them to you, the Way We Ball listeners. I love that we're so in sync.
producer Shane is on the money. Yeah, at this point now, I think everybody gets how Ball In, Ball Out works. But for you new people, you're exactly right. In, you're for it. Out, you're against it. All right, so Jamal, I will start with, before we get to the hot topic here, let's start with kind of the overall picture of the MLS. Ball in or ball out. The Eastern Conference is deeper and better than the Western Conference this season. Duh.
Ball In. I feel like that's been the case for a while now. Deeper for sure. Yeah, Ball In.
A while now, I might push back on that one. I think the West has really had more dominant teams, like in terms of like superpower teams of like what Portland, Sporting KC, LAFC, LA Galaxy, like there's so many that you can list off the top of that. But in terms of being deeper and better this season, I'm Ball In. I think the East is overall a better conference. In terms of what you have with Columbus, Inter Miami, I'm still not completely on board, but you can't lie with the results. They're top of the table right now. That's primarily on goal difference. To me, the number one team to watch out for, Montreal. Montreal, I think, is very interesting with Joseph Martinez, everything else that they've brought in. I think that they are a exciting squad. Actually, every squad in Canada, I would say, is going to have an interesting resurgence. Toronto has yet to give up a goal. Granted, they've only scored 2. The other one, I'm big on them, New York Red Bulls. I think the Red Bulls are going to be a top 5 team in the East. I think Forsberg is the real deal. Their defense is a lot better than people thought. This is a conference, and I haven't even gotten to Cincinnati, the reigning champs. I mean, like, this is a conference that's ready to make a run. I think they are very deep. This is somebody where it could be like where the Eastern Conference matchup is the true MLS Cup, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I feel like that was kind of the case last year too. Yeah, it's a deep conference. I feel like if you're going to watch a random MLS game, you're better off watching an Eastern Conference game. They're fun. Those teams are all stacked. Like yeah, the West has a few teams sprinkled in here, but yeah, the East Coast is
I'll
very
also
fun.
throw out
Very deep.
another hot take. The East Coast teams have better attended games in terms of fan passion. Like you look at the Union, you look at Cincinnati, like there's a lot of people over there to where it's like, yeah, we still have like St. Louis, Sporting KC, LAFC, Portland. Like there's good, but I think on the East side they might pack it a little bit more, which is I mean Atlanta alone. They set world records, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, that's actually a cool poll we should run, get people's feedback because like you have Seattle, Portland, which great fan
yeah,
bases.
100%.
Um, but yeah, East Coast, Columbus does really well. Charlotte surprisingly has
Also
a
another
really
great.
good, yeah, a really good thing going on there. So yeah, that's actually we should do a segment on that and go team by team. And
I like that.
but yeah, that was a unanimous decision. We are Ball In on the East getting stronger. If you disagree, let us know in the comments. Brandon, why don't you take us to topic 2?
This one is going to sting. Ball in, ball out. The purple kits are cursed. We have yet to win in our purple kits. I don't even know if we've actually scored a goal in the purple kits. Are the purple kits cursed?
The purple kits are not cursed. We just do not have a good attack. I'm going to take a line from producer Shay. Houston's known for its chopped and screwed music. Well, these purple kits are chopped and screwed by VAR. We get screwed over by VAR, by coach, by refs. It's not the kits, it's everything else.
Yeah, I mean, it's too early for me to. There it is. On cue as always and on time. I'm with you on the fact that, like, I don't think they're cursed yet. It's still early. But it is fun to see the excitement when they are on the screen. Like a lot of people take notice to it, where I feel like people watch a little bit more. Obviously, our last home game, we wore them. There was like 8 people in the stands, so not too many people have been turning out to see them. But they are wearing them. Every home match, man, like when a regular season game, I should preface with, I feel like you see more purple kits in the stands than any other jersey.
Don't say that on Reddit. On Reddit, you'll get crucified for liking the purple kits.
I know. There's so many people that are against it, but like, I just think this has a legit. We keep beating this dead horse. It has a legit story. I like the purple kits. They're not cursed.
Ball out. Unanimous again. Look at us.
I agree.
All right, Brandon.
Now he gets to
topic
the
3.
Yeah.
Now, yeah. Based on what you said earlier.
I'm gonna fill it up a little bit here. But okay, so Ball in, Ball out, MLS 360 is a good show. Now, I will preface everything with kind of what I'm going to talk about here, and feel free to either add on or add what you would like to do for this one. Ball out. MLS 360 is a very disappointing show for the platform that they have. This is a show where the concept of it is cool. It's essentially Red Zone, but for MLS. They do a good job of having multiple games up there and kind of talking about big moments or big storylines in each one of those games. That they do well. A couple of things that I absolutely hate. One, why is there commercials? I already pay a subscription. If you need to cut while they are getting makeup, going to the restroom, whatever it is, then just cut to a game and let the game run. We don't need to cut away from all of this. And then I get an update of a goal scored, and then they come back to it, and then they show it to you. It's just like, we're missing a step here. We should just always have a live stream going the entire time. Now, here's the big changes I would like to see made with MLS 360. If we're going to keep this paywall system, they need to hype up the viewer for the games, for us to give us a reason to buy it. So what I suggest they pivot to is pivoting themselves as more of like a game day atmosphere in terms of NFL game day, where they travel around. And what they need to do is travel around to one city where they're hosting a big match. So like, oh, we're going to go to Cincinnati versus Sporting KC. Hang out at their supporter bars, whatever it is, drum up a quote unquote game day atmosphere, hype up all the games, have your picks. And then when you cut to the MLS games, for you to watch it, that's when you should have to buy the paywall. If you're going to keep that paywall up, it needs to be one gigantic commercial for the MLS. And then they can do their show of where they break into games and do a fake mock NFL Sunday ticket thing. Otherwise, right now, this is a very product that looks beautiful on screen, but in essence, lacks personalities in terms of their commentators and analysts. It's a shit product for how expensive it is. And I am so ball out on what Apple is doing right now and how they could do it so much better.
Yeah, this one's tough because I'm ball in on the idea of it. Like, I like that there's a soccer centric show. I like there's a show that can get you prepared before the games, just so you know what's going on around the league. I'm just ball out with the presentation we're getting right now. I can't give you like a straight up answer with that because, like you said, I don't think there's anybody that's sitting down and watching a full episode of this show.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. Like, one, it's just very boring. The other thing is, like you said, the personalities. None of those guys really want me to tune in. Like Clint Dempsey, if he's on,
Yes.
I'm watching it. He's himself. He's so raw. He's like very real, not to sound too cliche, but when he's there with Micah Richards, like those two guys together, like create magic, right? So we don't have that kind of personality. Like, who's paying to watch Sasha Collection? Like, there's like, you know, like
Phillips.
Yeah, like nothing against those guys, but they don't really have the personality that's going to bring engaging, or they don't have the engaging personality that's going to bring eyes over. With that being said, yeah, I feel like they just need to scrap it and start new, bring in segments, make it fun, make it faster. I've tried to watch a few episodes like on my run, like if I'm on a treadmill, and within 5 minutes, I'm just switching to music because it just takes forever. And yeah, I appreciate Apple for doing this. I feel like everything's going to have growing pains. So in my head, I feel like this is just step one to something better. Because it's the TV industry, and the TV industry is cutthroat, and those guys will make changes on a flip. So I hope that happens because concept is great. We pay for it. So I would just like it to be just a little more useful.
They just don't sell their product. They just expect you to pay for it. And that's the problem I have with what the MLS is doing. This is why it's like when we kind of revert back to what them growing and Don's kind of role in this system, to where their viewer numbers are down. but I don't really place this so much on the MLS as much as I do on Apple, because it should be so easy to market all of their products when almost every single person you see on their phone, it's an Apple phone. So how the hell can they not just upload clips or make it to where on the TV where it's just it's very frustrating for how much reach they have and how little effort they're putting into the production of this stuff. And that's where I'm so ball out on it. Don't leave Apple. Do not get off that platform, but make this better. Otherwise, all we have is Messi coming to America.
MLS is, I can just say it, MLS is the worst league as far as like telling a story and getting folks captivated. I was talking to a buddy right now and I was like, I feel like Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney have done more for this sport than MLS ever has. Like, look at what you see with Welcome to Wrexham. I've gotten like infatuated with that whole thing just because the lower league soccer promotion really, I love that part of the whole story. But like, I've met folks on social media because of Wrexham that hated soccer, used to mock it. You know, football's number one, soccer is just for pansies kind of deal, you know. And they're all about soccer. And it took Welcome to Wrexham to get them into that. Nobody from MLS 360 is going to convert a non-soccer fan into a soccer fan. There's no stories. It's very boring. They're catering to that very, very small population of soccer fans in the US. And even that group of people aren't tuning into this. Be more
100%.
captivating, tell stories, get folks interested. Pretend nobody knows about the rival between the Galaxy and LAFC. Tell people about Columbus and why that stadium is so important for US soccer. There's so many stories to tell, and MLS is just the worst at doing that. I don't know, man. MLS, US men's national team, it's a very weird arrogance, I want to say, a lot of times with the people who are inside of it all. And I feel like you kind of see it with the product that we get with MLS. Here's soccer, we're giving it to you. It's good product, take it.
I agree. I think that's exactly their motto. And it's funny because when you mentioned Clint Dempsey and Micah Richards, I've told my buddy so many times in separate group chats where I'm like, these guys should be what Charles, Shaq, and Kenny are for NBA TNT for soccer here in America, because they're so hilarious. And I mean, like, speaking of that show, when that game ends at midnight on a Wednesday Central Time, I still watch them. I watch them at halftime. I don't change the channel because they're so hilarious, captivating, and yeah, sometimes they can actually teach you something. I don't understand why we can't get like Clint Dempsey and Micah Richards on the platform of Apple, being the face of that, and just make it a chuckle fest. You need to make it so that way, like ESPN, First Take, and all that stuff have to learn this game, because otherwise what we're going to see is them cram for the 26 World Cup. They're going to learn basic facts. They're going to disrespect it whenever they're talking about it on First Take, and MLS will never grow in the eyes of mainstream media. That's where they're really missing out on. And all you got to do is just get some viral people to go. Clint does viral stuff really well.
Oh, it's funny. Like, you can ask people who aren't a basketball fan, they know the Charles Barkley San Antonio woman quote.
Yeah.
Like, it takes stuff like that. And yeah, and it's funny because Micah Richards and Clint Dempsey, they're on, I think they're on the least subscribed total streaming service, Paramount Plus. I'm trying to say that like have it make sense. And like not a lot of people get to see them, right? And so yeah, we need personalities. Who's that personality? I don't know. Eric Ronaldo was a personality. I don't think MLS or US Soccer wants anything to do with him. I personally would love to have him on because he's that crazy guy who you don't know what's coming out of his mouth next. But bring those guys in, make it controversial, make it fun, put clips, like make it go viral. And we're not getting
You
that.
have Will Ferrell as an owner, and you can't get him and his people to come in and create funny content. Like, utilize people that you got. Like Taylor, yes, producer Shay, that is a good one. Taylor Twellman is a good representation. He is entertaining. He is funny. He can do the play-by-play stuff, but he needs to be on the MLS 360 show, selling the game exactly like how Kirk Herbstreit does. And then that night we hear him in the booth calling that game. Like, it's not hard. The model's already been laid out for us. Look at what Fox Sports did with their big game day show. Like, it's now equivalent in the ratings with ESPN's game day. And all they did was follow the model. That's all you have to do with MLS. If you don't have the supporter bars to turn out to, they just set up a podium in the stadium and talk there. Like, this isn't hard to do. Like, I feel like we have 1,000 different things that they can do. They have all the money in the world to make this work, and they just say we've got Messi, and that's just not good enough. So like, it's not just MLS 360 that's a crap show. To me, it's the product looks beautiful and it's so easy to stream. That is better than any other soccer platform out there. At Peacock, all of that. I will say that much. But they are killing themselves with what they're trotting out.
Well, like
That's
said,
how I call it, like I see it.
Hopefully they learn from this, because well, not from this segment, but just from this year and the viewership numbers, because yeah, it's very vanilla, very boring. But you know it's not vanilla and boring, Brandon? This podcast. I think that's it for this week's episode. To wrap it up, I'm Jamal.
And I'm Brandon, and this is The Way We Ball.